Hello and welcome to The Download from Wise Woman and Wordsmith, where insight meets inspiration. A space for creatives, dreamers and visionaries ready to spark new ideas, ignite purpose and reimagine possibilities. Here we share downloads of wisdom, stories and strategies to help you thrive in your creative journey. I'm your host, Jill Marshall. Tune in, connect and let the magic unfold.
Hello and welcome to The Download, where creativity meets clarity and purpose. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating mysteries of the creative and spiritual world, which is, where do creative and spiritual downloads actually come from? Whether you've experienced a sudden flash of insight that changes your course, or you've felt an idea flow through you as if from some higher source, you've likely wondered, what's behind this? Is it divine inspiration? Is it neuroscience, or is it something else entirely? Well, let's explore. First of all, let's define again what we mean by a download. A download is that aha moment when ideas or insights seem to arrive fully formed, as if someone handed them to you gift wrapped. Often these downloads are deeply creative or transformative, whether it's the concept for a new book, a business strategy, or even a course of action for your life. But where do they originate? Are we tapping into something inside ourselves or something beyond us? Well, there are three main schools of thought when it comes to where downloads come from. The first is the divine connection. Many people believe that downloads come from a higher power, whether you call it God, the universe, spirit, source energy, whatever you like to call it yourself. This view holds that we're conduits for divine wisdom, receiving what we need when we're open and aligned. Some creatives and spiritual seekers describe downloads as arriving during moments of stillness, meditation, prayer, or even when you're out in nature. And have you noticed how often these insights strike when you least expect them? That's because stillness clears space for the wisdom to flow in. Then the second explanation is that downloads could be the result of your brain making subconscious connections. This is the scientific angle. Think about it. Your brain is like a supercomputer. It's constantly processing and sorting information. So when you're relaxed or distracted, say in the shower or on a walk, it can connect the dots without interference from your conscious mind. This is often referred to as the incubation effect. Your brain's working on solving a puzzle, even when you're not actively thinking about it. And this is how you get those moments of clarity when you've tucked a problem or a query away in the back of your mind. And then the little superminds in your head work on it overnight without you having any input. That's when you get the dream or the sit-up-in-bed aha moment that tells you what you need to know. The third theory is that downloads come from the collective consciousness, a shared pool of knowledge, ideas, and creativity. Carl Jung, who mostly introduced us to this concept, called it the collective unconscious, while others might think of it as humanity's cloud storage, if you like. This is my personal favourite theory as to where downloads come from, as a big fan of Carl Jung, and also of associated works like Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. So this theory suggests that we're all interconnected, and when you're tuned in, you can access universal wisdom that's already out there. If you read about mythology, especially Campbell's work, and see how all the symbolism of story, myths, and human endeavours line up, even across unfathomable continents, cultures, and timeline differences, it becomes very evident that there's something either out there in the ancestral ether or encoded into our DNA that unites us all. And furthermore, it carries on teaching us all about this journey that every single one of us is on. So how to receive more downloads? Regardless of where they come from, there are ways to encourage them to flow. I've mentioned these before, and I'll keep going on about them so that we all encourage ourselves to receive more downloads. First of all, create stillness. Turn off the noise, literally and metaphorically. Meditate, journal, or spend time in nature to quiet your mind and make space for insights to land. Secondly, follow your intuition. Downloads often come when you listen to that inner nudge. Trust your instincts and follow the breadcrumb trail. Thirdly, feed your creative well. Expose yourself to art, music, books, and conversations that inspire you, sometimes the input you need for a download comes from very unexpected places. And fourthly, ask for guidance. If you believe in a higher power, ask for clarity or direction. Set the intention that you're open to receiving downloads, and then pay attention to what shows up. And I'll share a personal story of when exposing myself to art, music, books, and so on did lead to a download from a very unexpected place. Once upon a time, a book, an actual proper download from the internet, helped me to find myself. Not in a spiritual self-awareness sense, no, in a literal, actual, physically located sense. And seriously, you couldn't make this up. I'd moved into a friend's flat in West London on that day. I was house sitting for a while as I helped prepare it for sale by cleaning, painting, warming it through, making it a home instead of a rental that had been a little neglected by previous dwellers. So I moved in over that one crammed day in which my friend and I discovered that the former tenant hadn't moved out his stuff and presumably hadn't even seen a surface to clean it for several years. Between us, my friend and I, thereafter known as the Freakishly Strong Women House Removals Team, emptied the entire flat. We took several carloads of detritus across London to the old tenant's new place, between attacks on the worst of the grease and the grit and the grime, and frankly the grossness of a very lived-in apartment. Later in the evening, after my friend, Freakishly Strong Woman 1, departed to return to her young family, I perched very precariously on the edge of a bed only recently vacated by the previous tenant, and wondered if I should sleep on the floor. But the floor was probably worse. So I perched some more and wondered where I could go for more cleaning equipment. And it was only in that moment that I realised I had moved into this flat without ever visiting it before and with absolutely no idea where I was. Somewhere near Chiswick, in the vicinity of Turnham Green. Acton was kind of out there somewhere too. I knew I was near a school and a park, both empty at this late hour, or at least I hoped they were. Furthermore, it was too late to even set up the TV or a strong enough Wi-Fi connection to connect online and do some Googling. The boiler wasn't working. It was January in who knows where, West London, and I suddenly felt very cold, lonely, and not a little scuzzy from the lack of hot water. I didn't even, to my shame, have a book with me to while away the chilly hours, and the night ahead, I have to say, loomed pretty bleak. I did, however, have just enough data to download an ebook to my phone. So I browsed fairly listlessly through Amazon with very little idea what to choose. And then I suddenly remembered reading an article about Cold Feet creator Mike Bullen, in which he mentioned that he'd written a novel. Now, I love Cold Feet. I've always thought he was an excellent writer, so I presumed his novel would be worth a read. So I found it, I downloaded it, and then I teetered on the precipice of a very grungy mattress with actual cold feet and started to read. And then, literally just a few pages in, I started to laugh. He was honestly describing a place in West London, not quite Chiswick, near Turnham Green, midway between swooshy Chiswick and less swishy Acton. The character mentioned a park. It was my park, at the end of the street, not 40 metres away. I half expected to read the name of my street next, or possibly hear a tap at the door and find Mike Bullen standing there with a screwdriver in his hand so he could fix the boiler for me. It was the weirdest, most surreal experience. Mere seconds before, I'd been asking, in a rather self-pitying bleat, I might add, where am I? And then right in my hand, in my palm, was the answer. Here and connected, cosmically, to a writer you admire very much. Here in a land of dog walkers and young families, of lush parks and gently decaying houses. A stone's throw from the M4 and the escape route from London, but an even shorter stone's throw from upmarket Chiswick and sensible shops in Acton. You're here, where everything's just fine. You're here. I read the whole thing from virtual cover to cover and finally slept. Next morning, I sprang from my mattress edge with renewed vigour and began to explore properly. I became very fond of that little flat, and unlike Mike Bullen, or so it appeared in the book, I grew to really love that nameless triangle of West London and its very eclectic mix of people and places and puppies. I don't live there anymore, but I really recommend it if you're on the lookout for a sweet little spot in Chiswick's or is it Acton's hinterland? As for that book that helped me feel so at home, well, again, it's kind of hard to believe. It was one word. The title was Trust. And in the end, when we find ourselves lost, that's maybe what we all need. So some final thoughts on where downloads actually come from. Maybe it's divine. Maybe it's our own brilliant minds connecting the dots. Or maybe it's both, a magical interplay of inner and outer wisdom. The real beauty is, and this is a joy, you don't have to figure it out in order to appreciate it. The most important thing is to do like Mike Bullen suggests and trust. Trust the process and act on the insights you receive. So if you've experienced a download that changed your life or told you where you were, I'd love to hear your story. Share it with me on social media, drop me a message, and until next time, keep your heart open, your mind curious, and your creativity flowing. In light, love, and laughter, see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Download podcast. Feel free to like, comment, and share, and all of that good stuff. And for more about my books, coaching, and business services, please check out wisewomanandwordsmith.com. Also, I'd love to hear more about your own intuitive hits and downloads. So do find us on Facebook, YouTube, and more.